Simba, come here. And we'll go ahead and get started. I can already feel it getting warm. So yeah, I read over your form. It seemed like you got a good dog, but you could need.
I just want to like fine tune him.
Sure.
I feel like I trained him based on just like growing up with the dogs with basics.
Okay.
But he's not 100% either. I don't feel 100% confident with
Sure.
him. Just like being off leash. Especially like I'm newer to the city, so there's just a lot of things to react for the dog.
Sure.
I'm like used to having a yard and like just opening the back door and letting the dogs out.
Sure.
And I'm just living in the city now. I just feel like there's a lot more things to react for him, so I just want to get him like trained 100%.
Were you from the suburb or?
Yeah, I'm from a small town called Plano.
Okay, gotcha.
So I grew up with an American Bulldog, so it's just like my first dog was in my house. So
Gotcha.
I wanted to make sure he's a good dog too.
Sure, no, he's solid. I mean, I got a pit, but she's like the standard, American pit. She's 60 pounds. She's more of the bully style, right?
Yeah.
Big old head. Yeah, I see. So, what are the things that you find him reacting to?
So he absolutely loves balls.
Okay.
He's 100% oblivious to everything. Like if I have a ball in my hand, he'll do commands, but he looks like he's like the most focused when he sees a ball.
Okay, so you got a good ball drive?
Yeah, definitely. Just other behaviors, that just, I don't know, I still don't feel like 100% walking across another dog on a sidewalk. I know he's not a mean dog at all. I take him to like the dog parks in like Westwood to like play like in the thingies.
Okay.
He's not an aggressor at all, but my thing is like, if another dog is, he is defensive.
Sure.
There has been one time where like I was walking on like the rocks and I had him on the leash and I feel confident, he's a friendly dog. But like another dog showed aggression toward him, just like got defensive, and then he got defensive. I'm like, whoa, and like a dog his size, that's on me, that's my bill. Like that he's gonna probably kill that little poodle or whoever, So like that's just my anxiety, my fear there. So like that's why I kind of wanted to bring him here, just have him like 100%.
You should tell him not to have such a small dog.
Right. I know. Seriously.
Get a real dog. Yeah, no, for
Fuck
sure.
your dog, just because you got a little angry chihuahua, my dog snapped at you. Like that's the last thing I need.
Sure. Are you planning on fixing this guy, or are you gonna stay un-neutered?
No, he's not.
Okay. Is he gonna be bred at all?
Maybe down the line. But I mean, that's not the intent right now.
Okay. So, just because you said this is your first dog, right? Like your first dog.
I've grown up, yeah, like my own, like this is my dog 100%. I've grown up with dogs my whole life. I had a Victorian Bulldog in college.
Okay.
That lived with us.
Was he fixed or not?
It was a girl.
It was a girl?
She wasn't fixed.
She wasn't fixed either.
No, so like that's another thing too. Growing up, I never fixed my dogs, any of my dogs. Yeah, it was just, I don't know, like a family thing.
Sure.
My dad just the way like my dad.
Yeah. Are you Hispanic?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the Mexican macho.
Yeah,
Latino,
for sure.
How
How dare you chop your dog's balls off?
Yeah. The only reason why, and I personally don't care, your dog, your rules, right?
Yeah.
Is that these guys, they mate twice a year, and it's a need. Okay.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it's a need. And I've had in the past, well now in 2020, I had a number of un-neutered dogs. And one of them, he was about 5 years old, he was a deaf bull terrier. He actually comes to my daycare
So
now.
come here. Heel.
And he was, becoming territorial, like going after everything, going after the dog in the home. And I was like, I pick up a lot of frustration here. I was like, I think, and this is someone who doesn't care that people neuter dogs, right? But I was like, your dog is frustrated, and he's getting agitated and becoming more of a problem. And they got him fixed on my recommendation, and it toned him down tremendously. Okay. I have another dog that just got neutered like a couple weeks ago. He's a German Shepherd, and good dog, but like he would go nuts in public. And I told him like this dog is frustrated. Like I really feel like he's just gotta like get that out, and they weren't meeting that need. And then like, removing that toned him down as well. So again, I don't care if he's great right now, and like in 5 years he's great and all that stuff. Then you're good. But if you start to notice any kind of issues, and it's usually stuff that's testosterone based, the need to replicate or mate, mounting other dogs.
When would they start to show signs of that, like frustration, I guess?
Depends on the dog.
Because he's like a young man. I mean, I feel like he was probably, he's probably full grown though. He's probably ready to start going.
Oh yeah, no, he's
Like,
been ready to go since like a year.
Yeah.
So, but like it's usually a mounting frustration, and what you'll find is like, for instance, like with both those cases, the Bull Terrier and German Shepherd, the stuff that I typically do that works pretty quick is pretty straightforward. Was just the testosterone just makes him fucking tough. You know, so like we have a Great Dane that comes. He actually just left a little bit. He's not neutered either. He's actually the dog that did this. And we trained him when he was a year old, and he's 2 years old now, and he is super stubborn, right?
Yeah.
Now we can make him comply because of e-collar, but like to give you an example of just how intense that need to mate is, my Chihuahua wasn't neutered until he was 8 years old, and let's say you had a female, he'd come over here, he'd trade mounting her, and I could max out my e-collar and remote him, and he'd yip and run off, and 5 minutes later he'd be right back trying to mount her. And maxed out e-collar is a super harsh correction, especially for an 8-pound dog. And the need and the requirement to mate is that strong. Okay. So again, I don't know. I mean, we do the training, and if everything's good, and you like your dog, and you've got control, and you're happy, then we're good. But if you start to notice like mounting issues due to frustration, that's most likely why. And again, it would affect behaviors based on testosterone, like marking the need to mate, mounting other dogs.
Honestly, I mean, I don't think it would get to that point if you're saying it's like to the frustration. So I'm sure I'm gonna breed him at some point. But he's not gonna go on like years of dry spells. So I hope that's not the issue. But
sure, yeah, you know. So just so you know, but again, your dog rules. I honestly don't care. Okay. So anything else about Simba here that I should know about, or that you're like looking to address? Seems pretty straightforward.
Let's see. He's real skittish. When like I'll walk him down like just in public, and like other people will want to pet him, and he immediately like jumps away. He does not.
I noticed that earlier when he came up to me. I kind of went down like this. I saw him jump back.
Yeah, he's like, "Who the hell are you?"
Sure.
He's very like, well, but then he like has to like check you out a little bit, and then he'll like let you pet him. But no, he's a great dog. He's house trained. I can't remember the last time he pissed inside the house. He's a good dog. I just feel like I want to feel 100%.
Yeah, you gotta kind of acclimate to the city life.
Yeah, I'm not used to that too. And another thing too, I'm not moving into like a building too. So like another thing, like I want to make sure he's, you know, perfect.
Gotcha.
Like that's the last thing I want to worry about is my dog, you know, in my apartment building or something.
Correct.
Right now I don't have to worry about that, but
sure.
Coming up, you know.
So before reaching out to do any research, how I train, the methods I use, and all that stuff.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I did. I saw you use the shot collar. I saw you. Yeah, I did watch like another consultation, and you did. You like calibrated it. You were like turning up the dial a little bit. You were walking up and down.
Yep.
Yeah, it was one video, and I was sold. So.
Okay. So I'll explain how it works, just
so
you know.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with that whole. I never used that honestly. I just kind of like. I think if anything, I used the prong collars and just kind of allow my chisto voice, like you said, and that's how I kind of grew up training my dogs. But I know there's a better way.
Sure. And I'll explain like how this works. So prong and e-collar are like the in my opinion, best tools for training.
Okay.
Prong, however, limits you to where if the leash is on, like you have control. Okay. But then if you take the leash off, or you like use off leash or something, you no longer have that reliability.
Yeah, I have that.
The other thing is with pits, like they're very physically tough dogs. Is like if he's blowing up and being reactive in defense or whatever to another dog, and you try to crank him with the prong collar, physically you may not be able to deliver a correction harsh enough to stop the behavior. Okay. And it even happens with dogs that aren't like bully types, but it's definitely very common with our breeds. They're very physically tough. Plus dogs bite each other, like that's how they correct each other. So they're already like used to physicality. And a prong collar, of course, like no matter how hard you correct them, would never like puncture him. So it has its limitations. With the e-collar, you're not electrocuting, you're not shocking your dog, it's not like sticking your finger in an outlet or anything like that, or like the electric chair. In the dog training world, there's a lot of drama, and there's the positive only, like treats and only stuff, don't correct your dog or whatever, and then there's trainers like myself that use everything. And they use words like shock and torture and pain and whatever to deter you from using these tools. Now, definitely years ago when e-collars first came out, they were not what they are today, and they were not the greatest training tools. So they had like 5 levels. The ones that we use now have 127 levels. So 5 and 127 are the same, but I have 122 more divisions now. Okay, whereas before.
So you can crank it a little as you need.
Correct. Whereas 2 to 3 could be a very sizable jump with the older collars.
Yeah.
So the reason why I train with e-collar is because one, you get off-leash reliability. Okay. So even if you take the leash off, if he decides to be defiant or not listen or whatever because he just doesn't want to, you can reinforce it using the e-collar. You have that control. The other thing is, I had a lady, she was like 90 pounds maybe, and she had a 150-pound Great Dane. So she had, and obviously physically, she was not going to control that dog, right?
Yeah.
Plus, he was dog reactive, and she lived in Wicker Park, so she turned a corner to be a dog.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's okay.
So she needed the e-collar. Allowed me to close that gap because she could overpower him through the press of a button, and she also used the prong collar to give her more physical leverage. Okay, so I had to use
the combination of both.
Yeah, in your case, you may just be e-collar or you may be both, but the prong is just there in case you need it. So it's kind of like in the city, you might turn a corner and be confronted by a dog, right? Yeah. So it's so sudden that you need immediate control, and actually that prong collar kicks into play. But almost everything is done to the remote. Okay, every dog's level is different. It can be super low. Like he's a big, solid, bully type breed, but it doesn't mean his number is going to be high. It could be stupid low, or it could be stupid high, or it could be like every other dog.
I have a feeling it's going to be stupid low. He's a win.
So then we figure all that out in the training, and I help you figure that out. So when you said, like I was kind of adjusting the number in the dial and everything. Same thing here with this guy. The first thing that we cover is the heel command, which is walking on a leash. My style of heel is very strict. I take 5 steps, the dog takes 5 steps. I take 1 step, they take 1 step. When I stop, they automatically sit. This is a completely slack leash. I don't care what the environment is. Okay. Yeah. So when you have that level of focus, like the reactivity you're noting, and like just how everything distracts and whatever, that technically should all be fixed just through that exercise. Okay. Now, let's say we do all that stuff and like most of his issues have gone away, but like when a dog barks at him, he still becomes reactive back. Then it just means you have to do a different approach. Okay. So the first approach fixes a bunch of stuff, and then we see what does it not fix. And as we go along with the program, we start to tweak things to adjust to fix all those things.
Yeah, no, I like how you said that. Okay.
So then typically the heel is 2 classes. The first half, and then you go off to your homework for a week. Then I see the next week how to go. Great, blah, 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 blah. We make some adjustments. We work on the second half. If come back to third week, if everything's going great behaviorally and everything's going great with the exercise, we just continue with the obedience stuff. Okay, because like you said, you have a good dog. It's really just control. So then it just comes down to how much control do you want? So like if it's I walk my dog and we like go to the park or the dog park or something, then I go, okay, that's this many classes. If it's like I walk my dog, go to the park and go to restaurants, then that's a different number of classes. And if it's like I go hiking with my dog's gonna be off leash at the park, I go to restaurants, just come with me to work or whatever, then that's the longest program, right? Because that needs the most control.
So different settings require different classes then? Am I understanding that?
Oh, so it's so when in those settings, it's more so the skills that you're gonna learn. So like, let's say all you care about is walking your dog, him not being reactive, and being able to call him back.
So we're just going over like hypotheticals.
Correct, right? So if it's like, yeah, Jess, he'd never go to a restaurant with me and he'd never go hiking, then I go, well, I'm not gonna teach you that other stuff because you don't need it.
Yeah, I don't need it. Okay, no, that makes sense.
So, so with the 6 classes, like if you want it simple, right? Because I focus on what you want. If it's just again walk my dog and him not be reactive or be able to control my dog, whatever, and then call my dog should he get off leash or whatever, because in the city shit happens. Then I go, that's 6 classes. Okay, 2 classes on heel, 2 classes on recall, and then 2 classes on maybe if we're struggling with reactivity still, if we're struggling with correcting certain behaviors. Or if it's like, hey Jesse, everything's going great, then they teach you more obedience stuff. Okay, so the 2 things that have to happen are heel and recall. Okay, heel for sure, because that's the basis for everything. Recall just in case. Okay. If you did 9 classes, we would do those, heel, recall, the behavior stuff, and then we would teach like what we call the place command, which is like go lay down. So like if like guests come over and you don't want them jumping all over your guests, you can just tell them to go lay down and chill out. Or if you go to a restaurant, it's just like, hey dude, just like lay down here and chill out, don't move. So this way you can enjoy your brunch, you can enjoy your dinner, and your dog's chilling with you, and then you're gonna worry about what you're doing. Okay. The 12-week program is all 6 commands. There's sit, stay down, come, place, heel. 6 in total, that I call it those standard family pet obedience. And that's what allows you to take your dog everywhere, okay? And that's if you're gonna have that lifestyle with your dog. If that's not your lifestyle, then you just pick whatever program's gonna suit your needs, okay? Questions about this stuff so far?
So yeah, so based on the consultation, like today's session, will it change any of the number of classes? I guess what's today's, just to get an understanding of what.
Oh, so the consultation here
Yeah,
is I get to see this guy, right?
Yeah.
And I look at him and I talk to you and I get a feel for what you're wanting, and then I propose to you your options.
Okay.
And then like you can say, Jesse, I want to do 6, right? And let's say we do the 6 and you're like, man, this is great, like I want more. Because a lot of people don't believe they can get all this other stuff.
Okay.
Because of like most training methods don't work, but because e-collar is so effective.
Yeah.
When they hit the 6 classes, like, oh crap, like we want to learn more stuff.
Yeah.
Because you can purchase more. Okay, like I don't care.
Okay.
And then you might tell me like, hey Jesse, I'm good with these 6, but I want to learn like this.
Just more specific. Okay.
Yeah, and then I'll say, okay, well then that's just 2 or 3 more classes.
Yeah, no, I like the idea of the complete obedience because that's ultimately where I want to go.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's still young enough where like he's got a lot of life left, so that's where I was kind of going toward anyway.
Sure.
But you mentioned that like would I just start off with the 6 then because that's kind of standard and then build off that.
So
six sessions?
if you know you want a fully off-leash trained dog, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
I know that's 12 classes,
okay.
right?
Simba, come here.
And if you do 12 up front, you get a lower per class rate. So it's cheaper. Because you're saying, I already want this, so I go, okay, cool, then you're gonna get a cheaper rate.
Okay.
If you do 6 and then another 6, you would have a higher per class rate, okay? Now, I don't care if you do that, but if you're wanting a discounted rate, you just tell us, I'll do 12 up front. And we have payment plan options as well, so Maria can fill you in on that stuff too. So this way you're able to get the 12, but not have to worry about, being out a ton of money right off the bat. And she'll go over all those numbers with you. In terms of like the training collar, the one I'd recommend for him is and Maria will send you this information, is the Dog Training Nervousness Black Edition. It's meant for 70-pound dogs and over. It's the highest powered collar, and it's meant for dogs his size, okay? Now, one thing I will, FYI, is for the defensiveness, if a dog barks at him, okay? Stopping that, not a problem, okay? When he's on the leash and stuff, because you have more control. But with these really solid, larger bully type breeds, let's say an off-leash dog ran towards you and it triggered him, and he goes into defense mode. In his world, that's technically a valid response. So it's like if you're walking on the sidewalk and someone just charges you and starts threatening you, like I would think you defend yourself, right?
Yeah.
So, and you can tell like if someone's running at you being stupid and someone's running at you being a threat technically, right? But for dogs, they really don't know that. So even if it's a friendly dog charging at him, in his world, it's like, hey, don't disrespect him like that, right? If that dog triggers him and it were to escalate into a physical confrontation, these bully type breeds, like you could be maxed out, popping them on the collar, and they'll just go right through it, okay? So I'm gonna be teaching a lot of preventative stuff. I will teach you how to, if that were to happen, how we go about breaking or de-escalating the situation. But I've had it happen, during training. Like I've had 2 cases in my life in 10 years of training that were so human aggressive. They were both 150-pound dogs, and both human aggressive and both fear aggressive, okay? I have a special bite suit that I wear, and it allows me to get bit by the dog but not be hurt.
Yeah.
And these 2 cases needed 2 e-collars because anything less,
double shockers?
Yeah, anything less wouldn't break them. We were maxed out, and the dogs just take.
That doesn't hurt them at some point though, or?
Well, that's the thing. They were too far gone mentally, and their size was overriding a singular collar.
Yeah.
So then we had to pair a second collar to cut through the aggression and get them to finally cut the crap. Okay. So every dog has a breaking point, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying your dog's gonna need 2 collars, but like let's say that situation arises or something, and you're like, hey Jesse, this happened, and like whatever, and I don't want it to happen again. Like I want to know I can stop my dog. You can pair a second collar to the system, and it just means your number would be lower because you got two systems delivering a remote. So instead of 40, his number could be 20. Okay.
Gotcha.
And this is just kind of prepping you in case that were to happen.
Yeah.
At least you're like, Jesse kind of said this because I know these tougher, bigger bully type breeds, Because I know with the skiddiness, you're thinking like, oh, like he's kind of skiddy with people and stuff, but it doesn't really dictate his physical resiliency. He could be super tough and we don't even know it, you know?
Yeah, that's another thing too. I didn't know if he was, because I got him at 10 months and I was a little worried that he was going to go through puberty and be like a little bit aggressive, but I think he's a little bit past puberty. And he doesn't show signs of that, but that's a good point that you said, like, he may be hiding, you know, maybe it's all it takes is just like one aggressive male chihuahua.
Yeah, you know, and shit like that happens.
Yeah.
You know, like I've had people with dogs, and it's like, you know, unfortunately, usually the bully type dogs were like at 6 months and a year, like maybe at the dog park, a dog attacked them, or like a dog like lunged and parked at them or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the next day, it's like a light switch, all of a sudden they hate all dogs.
Yeah.
You know? So it's really just, you can do everything perfect, and then somebody's off-leash dog that attacks your dog and fuck it up for you. You know, it happens. But otherwise, you know, I wouldn't worry about it. But if something should pop up either during training or even post-training 2 years from now, you just shoot me an email, give me a call. Hey Jesse, like this happened. Should I be worried? You know, and then like I'll give you my opinion on it. It usually like let's say something like that happened, and we start to see consistent reactivity from him. That's a problem because it's consistent, right? But if it's like a one-off thing, and then he minds his business and like he's not a problem, then
You
it's
just
like,
didn't know how to act for that situation.
yeah, it's just a fluke moment,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay.
So that's how I go about it. Other questions?
No.
And you're looking to train them yourself, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'll fully admit, like, I'm not a good dog trainer. I just kind of go based off of what I've just been growing up with dogs.
Sure.
You know? So, like, that's why I reached out for, like, someone like you who knows what they're doing for, you know, my dog. So,
Sure.
definitely, I'm looking to, like, learn how to be a good dog owner, too, because half of it's on me, too.
Correct.
To train him, so.
So you don't have to be a good dog trainer in order to like get all this stuff done. E-collar allows a big gray area, you know, because you have your work life, you have your social life, you know, you have the things that you do, and then you have your dog as well. And the last thing you want is like having to learn another skill, right? So I've kind of broken it. I call myself the lazy man's dog trainer because I've broken it down to where it's
That's
like,
what I need.
you know, like you train as you live your life with your dog,
Yeah.
okay? And so the only command that really requires you to put a bit more effort is the recall or come and call, because it requires you to go somewhere, let your dog be off, you know, on a long leash, chasing squirrels, whatever, and practicing.
Okay.
But like sit, stay, down, and place command, all that stuff can be practiced inside. The heel command, well, you walk your dog, so you have to practice it anyways, right? It's just the recall that really does require you to do a bit more. And then the biggest thing is just the number. So do you drive?
Yeah,
Do you go on the expressway?
I do.
Do you go the speed limit?
What's the speed limit?
So, like, let's say it's 70, right?
Okay.
And you're trying to get to the city or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you go 70 or do you go a little faster?
I go a little faster.
Okay. Most people do,
Yeah.
right? I do, almost everybody does. The reason why we do this is called opportunistic behavior. I'm not going to report you to the cops.
That's
okay. It's called opportunistic behavior.
Oh, you got me.
They're going to start watching my consultations now. They're like following people. Yeah, it's opportunistic behavior, but if you see a squad car, what happens?
You slow down.
Slow down, because now you know I could get a ticket, right? Or I could get pulled over. So now there's threat of consequence. So think of the e-collar as a cop on a collar, okay? And because people always ask, like, if the training's so good, why will I need the collar after training, right? And I tell them, like, it's not that you always need it, it's just you have it when you need it. When you're gonna walk them, right? When you're gonna have them off leash anywhere. If you're gonna take them to a restaurant or whatever. You can't account for other dogs, other people and their dogs. Like right now, I just came from Oz from a consultation,
Okay.
and the dog was super dog reactive. And some lady had her 2 dogs off leash, and they started running towards us. You know, so we couldn't account for that, right? So we're like, call your dog, and the lady was taking her sweet time, and she's like walking over, like, okay, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So if something like that happens, I'm not worried about is my dog gonna take off and I can't get him to come back or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's what I'm really scared of.
Yeah.
Because like I want to play fetch with them, but like I gotta make sure I'm in like a ghost town and then I grab the ball, you know.
Sure. So with the e-collar, it allows you to have control when you lose control or regain control.
Okay.
But then, you know, if you've done all your training, it's not that you're always having to use it and zap them, whatever. It's just, it's present just in case life throws you a limb. Okay?
So it's like last resort, police, like get your ass over here or whatever.
Correct. You know, like I've had dogs take off because of fireworks. They got
Oh, okay.
spooked. But the owner was able to get the dog back because they had the e-collar, you know? Some dogs are a bit more stubborn and they require more reinforcement, in terms of like the e-collar or whatever, in terms of power. But as long as you do the homework and you practice, as you go by your life with them, really shouldn't be a problem. Okay. Let me think here. Because the most common question I get is always just like, when does the e-collar go away? And I hate the word dog training because training implies at some point we're done. But when it comes to dogs, it's more so like a dog lifestyle.
I agree with that because like I need to figure out I need to fine tune like my commands too, so that way I'm very clear on what to do. And I get that.
Yeah. Is there anybody else that's gonna be working with him, or is it just solely you?
Primarily me. My brother might come up to the next meeting just
Sure.
in case like I'm ever gone. But I work from home a lot anyway, so I'm like with the dog all the time.
Okay.
But I do want to be familiar with my younger brother, so
Sure.
just in case like I'm out of town or something, just like a
Yeah. So a couple of things would be your brother's more than welcome to join in on the training.
okay.
Whoever's gonna handle the dog, I encourage they come.
Yeah.
If you can't make the training, like I said, we record this stuff now, so you can just send it to your brother and say, like, hey, watch this video. This is, me training Simba, and you'll get to watch him and how everything works with him specifically. Okay.
Simba.
If it's like a number of people, like I have one where a client, there was like 5 people came to train the dog. I was like, who's gonna work with the dog the most, right? Because I obviously trying to split an hour amongst 5 people, we're not gonna get anywhere.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I'll prioritize the most important, but like you and your brother, perfectly fine. I actually worked with 2 brothers a couple weeks ago with their pit.
Simba.
I know, but so yeah, it's not a problem. Now, when you leave him home alone, does he have any separation issues, or has he been doing pretty good?
No, he whines a little bit, but then he usually sleeps all day.
Okay, because with the work from home stuff, that's created a lot of separation anxiety with certain dogs.
Yeah.
So just checking on that.
He'll whine. I mean, if anything, he's like super excited when I come home. But as far as separation anxiety, I mean, he doesn't like cry or anything.
Okay.
So it's just good.
And did you say you're already in the city, or are you gonna move to the city?
So I'm already in the city.
You're already in the city.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And how long have you been in the city for?
So I personally lived in the city for 2 years.
Oh, okay, so he's been in the city.
So so I got him about February last year.
Okay.
So that's how new to the city he is. So about
Okay, yeah, I see now. Okay. Just because sometimes when people move from like suburb to middle of Chicago, the first few weeks are pretty rough, and then after that, wherever the dog ends, kind of gives you an idea of where they're gonna be.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, so we both have a year under our belt in the city.
Okay, yeah, then you should be pretty good. Like his behavior is consistent, whatever.
Mhm.
So there shouldn't be a problem. When it comes to the training and stuff, and like stopping like negative behaviors, like let's say reactivity, I can only take you as far as you're willing to go. So like let's say he's like in the building you're gonna move to or whatever, he starts like becoming reactive to dogs because it's a private quarter or something like that with hallways, and you tell me, and let's say we've gone up to as high as 45 out of 127, and it's not working, and I'll say like, okay, go to 85, for example. And then you come back and like, how was your week? You're like, oh, Jesse, it started like he's still being super reactive. And I'm like, well, how high did you go? And you're like, well, I went to 55. I'm like, 55 to 85, right? Is that unless you follow those instructions, we're not going to make progress. And I play it by ear. We start low, we work our way up. Simba's progress and Simba's response to things is what kind of dictates what's going to be the appropriate number, okay? Because dogs don't go by how you feel. They're not like, oh man, dad feels bad spanking me at 100, so I'm not gonna be that bad, I'll be a little bit better. Like, he's gonna do what benefits him.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, I mean, this should be pretty straightforward. Because it's really just getting them under control, and that should fix any reactivity issues and stuff that you're dealing with. And if that's not the case, there's other ways of addressing it too. We might incorporate a prong, depending on how his behavior progresses, because the prong gives you just a bit more leverage. Because with this guy, because they're low to the ground and all the power is up here, is it helps to give you that just extra leverage and control, so you don't have that like anxiety of like, crap, what happens if I turn a corner or something like that. Okay. Any other questions?
No.
In terms of training location, like I have my building here. This is 13,000 square feet in total. My training floor is like 5,000 to 6,000 square feet. So we can train here. People's concern is, does this transfer to home? And the answer for the most part is yes, because it's just about number. So here, if it's not that much going on, his number may be lower.
Mhm.
But then the way I teach is I teach you how to think and adjust to the environment. So as long as you're willing to go up higher and adjust the e-collar to the environment, there should be no reason why he's not being obedient in your home setting. I think that's pretty much it. Anything else?
Yeah, no, I think I said all my concerns about him. Like, if he was a smaller dog, if he was like a French Bulldog,
Mhm.
I wouldn't, like he's a small dog, if he just, exactly,
Yeah,
you know.
that's a super, everybody does that.
Exactly, you know, it's just, but like, he's not a bad dog, so like you said, I want to get that complete
Sure.
control and make sure, because there's a lot more things to react to for him in the city. But yeah, that's kind of that was my overall goal. But
Sure. I mean, he's a solid dog, you know? And plus he's a pit, right? So like, there's all like the boot stuff or whatever. So then that doesn't help the situation either. Unfortunately, like, I had a client's dog who had a pit Catahoula mix, and a golden retriever actually got off the leash and attacked their dog. And then when it got reported, the pit actually got the blame because of the pit fought back.
But yeah,
you know?
of course, yeah.
But they're,
you look at the dog, like which one got the most damage, right?
you know, so unfortunately their dog got the short end of the stick there. So it sucks, but it's just kind of how it is.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely don't want him putting himself in a bad position because ultimately they're the ones that pay for it. So
Exactly.
Okay.
I totally get that.
so Maria would reach out. She'll break down the pricings. Like I'll tell her to send you, 6, 9, and 12 week pricings, and then 12 is the fully trained, off-leash trained stuff. You do have to do the homework. If you walk out here and like, you only practice once a week or whatever. But the homework is easy because, like I said, you can practice it as you just live your life. Like, if you're going to sit down and watch Netflix for a couple hours, you can have them lay down at your feet for a couple hours, right? Because you're never moving anyways. And then as long as you're doing that stuff and you're applying it and you're using it, come the spring, summertime, things open up again and all that stuff. Hopefully, you can start enjoying more freedom with your dog. So, anything else?
No, not really. I think you covered everything. Next steps, I'll talk to Maria.
Mm-hmm. She'll get in touch with you, and then your consultation credit will get credited towards your training program as well. And then she'll send you the make and model that I suggest for him. And then you can get those on Amazon if you have Amazon or whatever. And then once she'll pick a time that works well for the both of us. And then, if you do 12 for 12 weeks, I'd see for an hour at that same,
Would it be one session a week then?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, one session a week. Some people try to do 2, and unless we're tight on time because they're going to move or something, it's not really beneficial. You need a week to make mistakes, kind of see the progress,
So, like,
see what needs work and all that stuff.
And
And then plus, like, what if you're busy at work, whatever, and then you can't work with them for a couple of days? Like, then if I were to see you, like, every 3 days, then, like, it just makes things.
now, when you say homework or like things to work on, are you just saying like drills, activities to?
Yeah, actually, like, like when you walk with him to take him potty and stuff, like, you practice your healing exercise.
Okay.
You'd apply, if you're going to be working from home, instead of, like, letting him be free and walking around, I might have him down at my feet for a couple hours. So the exercises, it's not like you're, other than recall, having to set aside time to teach it. Like, once we've taught it, we're pretty good. It's just applying it and using it. That's the most effective dog training, is to use the obedience. Obedience is meant to be functional. Obedience isn't cute tricks like paw and roll over. Like, that stuff I don't care about, right? But sit, stay down, come place, heel is all meant to be functional, despite the environment, whether you're at Home Depot, whether you're at home, whether you're at a restaurant or at the park with dogs running off leash. It's all meant to be functional. So that's what we train for.
Okay.
Okay? Anything else?
Yeah, no, I think I'm good.
Cool. So yeah, I'll talk to Maria. She'll get in contact with you and then, get everything squared away. We do have a lot of consultation requests coming in, people booking and stuff. So if you don't hear from her for a day or 2 or whatever, she should get back to you, but don't be worried. Like, it's because she's just trying to catch up with everybody.
So this consultation is a credit toward whatever program or
Correct. Whether you do 6, 9, or 12, you'll get 135 because you came here. You'll get that full credit towards your program.
So like how soon or how late do I have or like would I be able to start next week then or like what?
Yeah, if I have availability and our schedule works together, it could be as soon as next week. If you're starting the process and it takes longer than, for whatever reason, because maybe our calendar's not lining up, you'll still get your credit.
Okay.
So that's not a problem. And then sometimes people tell us like we're gonna travel, like will I still get the credit? Like if I travel, we'll say sure, thanks for letting us know. And we'll just invoice them, they'll make their down payment, whatever, and then they're good to go. So,
Cool.
yeah, alright?
Yeah, sounds good, man.
Alright, Angel, it was a pleasure meeting you. And Simba, he's a good looking dog.
Thank you, thank you.